Hey everyone, what's up? It's Ellie here. Since Deathloop's announcement in 2019, there have been some questions about whether Deathloop and Dishonored are within the same universe. They are both titles created by Arcane Studios, who have locations in both Lyon, France, where it was founded in 1999, and Austin, Texas, USA, which opened in 2006. I'm not 100% sure about the first Dishonored, but I believe Dishonored 2 and Death of the Outsider were more specifically worked on by the Lyon studio, which is also the studio predominantly working on Deathloop. Obviously, this would mean that a lot of the same people who put in countless hours as well as copious amounts of creativity and passion into these titles would likely be doing it all again with Deathloop. And you can definitely see it in what we've been shown so far. The styling, the characters, the art, the environments. The aesthetic may be somewhat different, but there is a clear level of familiarity between Dishonored and Deathloop, maybe more specifically Dishonored 2 and Deathloop. Deathloop literally inherits iconic powers that were previously unique to the Dishonored franchise, like Blink and Domino. It couldn't be any more obvious that these two games were related. But is being worked on by the same studio the only thing that connects these two IPs? You could say that perhaps Black Reef is Pandyssea. Roughly 100 years into the future, you have to admit, they kind of look similar in shape. Perhaps some landmass was lost to sea over time. I mean, Pandyssea is supposed to be huge, like think Pangea, but who knows? And after the disappearance of the Void's outsider, a previously human supernatural being that would make himself known to those who worshipped him and others that particularly interested him, maybe the belief in the Void was severely weakened over time. Deathloop is set in the 1960s, and we know before the events of Deathloop, Black Reef was occupied by military and research bases around the 1940s. So, perhaps in that century later from the events of Death of the Outsider, there was a newly generated interest in investigating the island and rediscovering its possible supernatural properties. Through the stories of Anton Sokolov, a character who has physically visited the continent, we learn about land-going whales and flying serpents. And it was the place in which the outsider first connected with him. Pandyssea surely seemed like a supernatural and very spiritual place. Maybe there was a physical reason for that. An explanation that could, later with advanced technologies, be explained with further research and science. I mean, we don't know much about Deathloop yet when it comes to the actual lore around Black Reef. We know it was a military-protected research site, home to the mysterious substance known as Residuum, a resource so powerful that it can bend time, space, and bring people back from the dead. The brightest minds in the world have harnessed its power and condensed it into trinkets and slabs, crafted from what seems to be precious metals, perhaps native to the island as well, that gives humans inhuman capabilities. It really does sound supernatural, and it's even been described as such by the developers, kind of like the supernatural powers of the Void, which were also condensed into bone charms and runes crafted out of whale bones. Those in the future could once again be forming what used to be. Something I noticed while watching some Deathloop gameplay at an exclusive preview event was that the trinkets in the game make the same sound as they do in Dishonored. I have no idea if it was a placeholder sound, but I almost jumped out of my chair hearing that noise again. I've also pointed out in a previous video that I noticed what could be an Easter egg to the Dishonored universe itself. The name Calero on the glass of a small booth type building, a name that refers to a location in Serkonos, an island in which Dishonored 2 is predominantly set, as well as the advertising of a brand of cigars we see almost everywhere in both Dishonored and Dishonored 2. Though this name in Deathloop features a slightly different spelling with only a single L, spelling of names change over time for lots of reasons, and so I didn't really question it. The logo also looks a lot more established in age than the logo of the Eon program beside it, perhaps visually signifying that this company has been around longer. But hey, it also could have been completely unintentional, and I don't believe I've seen it again in any of the other trailers or gameplay reveals. But let's be real. I've speculated about this a lot, and so have others. Developers of Arcane have admitted that they were ending the Dishonored story arc as we know it, but not completely abandoning making another game in its universe. There are plenty of ways that these games could have a connection, but real talk, are these games actually sharing a universe? As I mentioned, I attended an exclusive preview event of Deathloop, which was later followed by a Q&A session with game director Dinga Bakabar and art director Sebastian Mitton. And the question was asked, is Deathloop related to the Dishonored universe at all? Dinga took on this question and explained that they definitely aim to create a whole new world and new characters, that the familiarity to Dishonored was on purpose. They wanted to try something new and different, exploring the unknown with this time loop structure. They wanted something familiar for Dishonored fans to hold onto. Dinga went on to explain how these supernatural powers we've come to know and love, like Blink and Domino, are really just considered arcane powers more than they are Dishonored powers. It's just that we've only seen them in the Dishonored universe so far. And honestly, I'm not complaining. I loved using Blink in the Dishonored universe. I loved it so much that I wish I could Blink in almost every other explorative game. It just allows for such an in-depth exploration and creative combat. It seems like the most useful ability a game has ever given me as a player. And Deathloop is supposed to be a game that you can feel you are the master of. So I think it fits perfectly. Art, characters, the use of space, combat, abilities, these commonalities are what make Arcane Studio games. So, are Deathloop and Dishonored in the same universe? No. But I have a good feeling that if you really enjoyed Dishonored, then you're probably going to love Deathloop too. I can't wait to dive into this game's world and get to know it more. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and maybe you should hit that subscribe button while you're around that general vicinity. Let me know how you feel about Deathloop and Dishonored similarities in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!